The Health Professions Council of South Africa has received a formal complaint against a renowned heart surgeon who spoke out against COVID-19 vaccination. This as the medical body urges the medical professions to stand together behind vaccines as an effective intervention against the pandemic. Joining us now to discuss the personal opinions of medical professionals on vaccines is Health Professions Council of SA Head of Legal and Regulatory Affairs, Advocate Phelelani Khumalo. Advocate Khumalo, good to have you with us on the Daytime Update today. Let's start first with it was a Zoom session that took place, and Dr. Vosloo was part of a panel who was speaking. Give us a roundup and a summary of what it is that she said that has led to complaints against her.
Thank you, Tammy. Maybe not to waste your time, as you have just indicated that a formal complaint has been lodged against the health practitioner, then I would maybe try and not discuss the details of what is complained of, because do take into account that the practitioner has got the right to a fair investigation and a fair disciplinary process, and to then comment on details of what is being investigated can jeopardize the case. But I would be able to...
Could you then maybe perhaps, Advocate, without jeopardizing the case, give us an idea of the complaint that was laid? What is it that the consumer or the individual was unhappy about?
Well, the complainant is generally unhappy about the opinions and comments on vaccines and maybe the issue of COVID-19, but I think that will be just the details that one can give. I can just indicate to you that we are investigating the matter, and once the matter has been properly investigated, it will be placed before a committee of experts who are also medical practitioners. Those experts are then empowered by our prescripts to decide whether or not the conduct complained of constitute unprofessional conduct.
I listened to parts of that video, and what the doctor said is that when you are giving medical counsel to a patient, you've got to be fair, you've got to give them the facts, but it is also your responsibility as a medical practitioner to lay out what the risks of a particular prescription or particular direction would be. And in her case, that is what she says she was doing, also laying out what the risks of vaccinations would be. Are doctors allowed, specifically regarding COVID-19 vaccination, to hold a view that puts the risks out there and makes the risks clear to the patient?
Thank you, Tammy. So it is true that the ethical rules and the laws governing practice of medicine or any health profession, one of such rules is that a patient must be informed of the procedure, the nature thereof, the risk associated with such procedure, the options available to the patient, and also how much that will cost. Now, whether or not what has been put out there constitutes any misconduct, as I have said, is left to the discretion of the professional board, which is the medical and dental professional board, because there is no law that censors practitioners in terms of their freedom of speech. But if there is a complaint about what a practitioner has uttered, then the board must decide whether that conduct constituted a misconduct when regard is had to their particular profession. I might just want to add, Tammy, that if a practitioner is giving out an expert opinion, is expressing an expert opinion, it must also be on an area that a practitioner is adequately educated and trained. And that's why we also talk about issues of scopes of practice, because practitioners, we do know that they are trained and educated in different areas of healthcare.
And this is so pertinent right now, Advocate, specifically regarding COVID-19. How trained and knowledgeable are our health practitioners regarding even the contents of the vaccination? And I ask this because of one of the statements made by Dr. Khumalo saying that there are confidential ingredients that are actually contained in the vaccine which one cannot disclose, which even the manufacturers cannot disclose, and perhaps even the countries themselves don't even know what's in that vaccine. And that is one of the reasons that she put forward. How does that bode then as far as being knowledgeable and being adequately equipped to advise when you don't even really know what's inside there?
Thank you, Tammy. I think the issue of the contents of the vaccine is actually better explained by another regulator. You would appreciate that medicines for which vaccines form part of are regulated by the South African Health Regulatory Authority, which is SAPRA, and they are better placed to then make a comment on the efficacy or otherwise of the vaccines. HPCSA is not the regulator of medicine. We regulate health practitioners that provide health care in the country. I hope that answers your question.
It certainly does in some ways, just ring fencing it to the body that would be able to comment on that. But in your legal analysis and as you go through the case, one would assume that these are also the type of questions that you would be asking yourself to determine whether or not this was a breach of any kind.
Well, like I said, that whether the comments went beyond what the board would expect a practitioner to comment on is still to be determined by the relevant professional board, and I would not want to place an opinion in that regard because that would be preemptive.
Is there anything within the Hippocratic Oath that doctors take that prohibits them from giving personal opinion, or are there circumstances that need to be in place first before that personal opinion can be placed?
The guiding factor in the oath is that whatever the doctor does, it must be to advance the health of the patient, to promote the health of the patient, and not to cause any harm. That is the guiding principle. Now, then practitioners would operate within that guiding principle to say, what guides my actions as a practitioner is, am I promoting health? Am I acting in the best interest of my patient and not to harm them? That would be what would come out of that oath as a guiding principle.
Is this the first complaint that you have received regarding vaccination and the COVID-19 pandemic?
It is the first.
Do you suspect that there may be many more that could come after this? And I ask because doctors clearly, and it's been shown by Dr. Khumalo, some of them may be hesitant to recommend the vaccination for whatever reasons that they might have. In a case like that, where one's personal values conflict with the standpoint of the governing bodies for the profession, how does one mitigate that? What are doctors then to do should they be of the opinion of Dr. Khumalo, for example? Are you still with us, Advocate?
Yeah, it is difficult. Yes, I am. Tammy, can you hear me?
I can now. Thank you, sir. You can go ahead.
Thank you. So I was saying that it will be difficult at this stage to speculate as to whether or not we will receive further similar complaints as those that have been laid against the practitioner in question. However, the issue of, holding personal views and beliefs the boards have guided practitioners. For instance, the guiding principle is what is in the best interest of the patient if you are attending to the patient. Say, for instance, one does not believe in blood transfusion. I'm making an example. And so you may not leave a dying patient, if I may use the word, in an emergency situation and raise the issue of personal objections and beliefs as the reason why you abandoned the patient. So the best interests of the patients are utmost in any setting, especially in issues of emergency.
Advocate Khumalo, thank you very much for your time. We certainly will be keeping updated with the results that come out of this entire process. As you say, it's a first for the Health Professions Council of South Africa to receive such a complaint, and how you deal with it will be, I guess, an exercise in learning. Thank you for your time, Advocate Khumalo.